Welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast, where it's all about fixing your marriage without your husband's conscious effort so that you feel desired, taken care of, and special, even if your relationship feels completely hopeless. I'm Laura Doyle, and today I'm revealing why husbands come back after leaving for another woman. My guest, Julie's husband, filed for divorce twice, and their marriage had little physical intimacy or emotional intimacy. And he didn't defend her from his family. The whole thing seemed hopeless. But today, her marriage is a delight because he dotes on her and they laugh together a lot. Most of all, there's a lot of intimacy between them. She's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. The worst relationship advice of the week award goes to an article that promises the secret to stopping housework-related resentment, but actually just says the same old tired thing that you and I already tried over and over, and it never, ever worked. All that's coming up, but first I'm going to reveal why husbands come back after leaving for another woman. Now, if your husband cheated and left you for someone else, it's one of the most heartbreaking things anyone can go through. When the man who vowed to love you for better, for worse, for life betrays you, it affects your self-esteem, your health, your family, every aspect of your life. And no one deserves that. Maybe he's saying he's done. He's not in love with you anymore, and there's no changing his mind. Ouch. There's nothing more painful to hear. It's enough to make anyone feel hopeless and ready to give up. If you've been through the most devastating kind of betrayal, what now? A lot of people will tell you it's time to give up on your marriage. But since you're listening to this podcast, that's proof that some part of you, and maybe it's a small part, wants to fix this marriage. And the question is, how are you supposed to do that, especially if your husband is already living with another woman? I'm going to share that in a moment. But first, let me just say that if you're wanting your husband back after he's left for another woman, I admire you very much. I admire your courage and your commitment. Not everybody has that. And I say that knowing that you may not feel so committed every single day. Sometimes doubt and fear are going to creep in. That's just part of being a human who's having an excruciating experience. What I admire about you, though, is that you're focusing on your hope and on your faith that you can create the kind of future that you want to create. This is one of the qualities that I consistently see from wives who have attracted their husbands back after he left for another woman. A lot of students arrive on our campus with this breakdown in their marriage. So you're not alone. There's another woman he's with. And these women who come here with the intention of fixing their marriage, they are truly extraordinary, amazing women. I mean, one of the first things they did was seek out a community that would support them in their vision to fix their marriage. They had plenty of people telling them that it was time to break up their family, that it was hopeless, but they didn't listen. They kept going until they found a tribe that would stand for them and stand for their marriage. And that takes such courage. So I love to interact with and hear from courageous women. They inspire me, especially when they talk about how they got their miracle and how they themselves transformed in the process of going through this breakdown to having the breakthrough. So what else did these women do who have been successful with attracting their husband back after he's left for another woman? Well, number one, they made it the best of times. One student quoted Charles Dickens to describe recovering her marriage after her husband left for another woman, saying it was the best of times and the worst of times. It was already the worst of times because her husband had left. He left her for an old high school crush, and he wanted nothing to do with his wife. So big ouch. But she also made it the best of times by deciding to go to dance classes and starting some other new hobbies that filled her with joy. She said she actually felt happier than she had in a very long time. And even her son said, "Mom, you're a lot more interesting and fun since Dad left." And that happiness she exuded was a big part of what drew her husband back to her. Seeing her smiling and laughing again, just like she did when they were falling in love, was one of the things that led to the best of times when he told her he loved her and only her. Number two, they cleaned up their side of the street. But wait a minute. He's the one who did wrong, not you, right? He's the one who owes you an apology. That's true. But if you've ever tried making someone apologize, you already know how unproductive that is. I mean, maybe your husband obliged, but his apology wasn't very satisfying because you had to ask for it. Or maybe he just got annoyed with you, making the whole situation even more tense. Kendra decided to be accountable for her side of the street by apologizing for being controlling and disrespectful for so many years, which took her husband by surprise. He looked at her like she had two heads. Her unexpected response led to unexpected results. Her husband finally showed the accountability that she longed for. He broke it off with the other woman. He blocked her on social media, and he never spoke to her again. And almost a year later, he again expressed remorse for how he had cost them in their marriage, along with his appreciation for Kendra for being so strong when he was at his worst. Number three, they starved the other woman of oxygen. So speaking of oxygen, if you're like most mere mortal women, you're probably giving time, energy, and focus to the last thing that you want to think about, the other woman, right? Who is she? Where did they do it? When? And how many times? And what does she look like? And what does she have that I don't have, right? Are common questions that might be going through your mind. They're tantalizing questions because it helps to feel like you're going to settle another big question in your head, which is, am I going to lose my husband to her? And while the illusion is that knowing those answers is like looking into a crystal ball that's going to tell you the future, but that's the counterfeit. Focusing on her is increasing her presence in your lives, which is probably the last thing you want to do. What if you were to take an entirely unexpected approach and ignore her completely? If you're like most women, you might get afraid that even if you decide to move forward, you'll always be looking over your shoulder, wondering what he's up to, waiting for the other shoe to drop. After such heartbreak and pain, that's a common concern. And it can hold you back from wanting to save your relationship, thinking it's always going to be third rate. Your marriage will be different in the future, yes. But in my experience, the breakdown can be the portal to a breakthrough where your marriage is better than ever. Some students on our campus have even expressed gratitude for their husband's affair because it's what brought them here, where they got to become their best selves and learn the secrets of loving and being loved in return. Now that is unexpected. If you'd like to be my guest on the Empowered Wife podcast and share about how you fixed a struggling relationship using the 6 intimacy skills, I would love to interview you. Just go to lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest to let me know that you are willing to make a big contribution to ending world divorce by telling your relationship story. I look forward to meeting you. That's lauradoyle.org/podcast-guest. My guest Julie's husband filed for divorce twice, and their marriage had little intimacy, physically or emotionally. He didn't defend her from his family, and the whole thing seemed hopeless. But today, her marriage is a delight because he dotes on her And they laugh together a lot. And most of all, there's a lot of intimacy between them. She's going to tell us how she did it so you can do it too. Julie, welcome to the Empowered Wife Podcast. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So we want to hear what things were like in the bad old days. At least I do.
Well, we fought a lot. There was a lot of fighting. Definitely a lot of me being on his paper about things as I reflect now. And
but you didn't know that then, probably.
No, I thought I was totally right in everything I did.
Right.
But we're both gregarious people and he's pretty emotional. So our fights would escalate pretty quickly. And he just said a lot of things to me that didn't even make sense. And my thing is I just wanted to get out of there. So I would just leave if things got escalated, because that fright and flight thing, it almost just took over. I couldn't stop myself from just kind of running out the door when things got escalated. And he was always, even when we were, our courtship and our engagement, which things were supposedly going well, he would snap at me at least once a day. Mm-hmm. And then he would kind of, smooth it over by making a joke and everything. But I always just thought, oh, he's just a person who's in a bad mood all the time, And of course I had my reasoning for that. And of course I had them all figured out. And so it was really pretty bad, but I was really in love with him. And I'm older, so I'm in my early 60s, and I really didn't want to give up on this relationship. I really thought, this has got to work. The other relationship I had did not work out, and I thought, I want to figure it out. I was really determined at my age to figure it out. I didn't want to move on. I don't think he did either, because he's the same age as me. And so it was just, and also we got married like a minute before COVID hit. So we were stuck in the house together because he was a teacher. So he started teaching from home. And I had just moved to his house in a strange city. And so I didn't have friends or, a way to even go and socialize, nobody really did then. But, and so I kind of set myself up in the garage, which was insulated, luckily. And I just hung out there and tried to just kind of live my world sort of separately in a way, and try not to, I was always walking on eggshells. Let's put it that way. Always walking on eggshells.
Because you didn't want him to explode or snap at you.
Right. He would snap or explode. And, I just, it was just nerve wracking. And so I felt like, oh, this is, I've just got to be quiet and good. And, not ask him if anything. And meanwhile, in my head, the wheels were turning like, what the heck's going on here?
Yeah. Did you start to think, okay, this was a mistake?
Well, I think he might've thought it was a mistake. I thought there's got to be a way. I know other people are happily married. I thought, like you did in the beginning, what's their secret, and that's sort of how I found you. I just started Googling everything. And, often you can get answers in funny ways, from, sometimes I would be in chat rooms and some 18-year-old guy would get on there and have some sage advice, oh, okay. I never thought about it like that. And it just seemed like, also too, I had the added caveat that he was a widower. And he'd been married 40 years to another woman, basically his whole life. And that was hard to deal with. I was moving into the house where she had passed away in. A lot of her stuff was still there. How do I get her stuff out? And that was always kind of a dicey little, he would kind of encourage me and then not encourage me. And so it was just kind of, it was an added thing that I thought was not prepared for. I thought, oh, a widower, no exes around, right? But
Perfect. Right.
there's
Yeah.
a whole dynamic there. She'd only passed away like 3 years before we were married, and she had died in that home. And so even though he was ready to get married and he was, had moved on, a big part of him, I don't think will ever move on. Right. And that was hard for me to accept. So I didn't like hearing him talk about her all the time. I wasn't used to that. I'd been with in relationships where they had exes and maybe once in a while, but not the way a widower really just sort of feels very entitled to talk about their former wife in a big way, where people who are broken up don't have that feeling of wanting to talk about their exes a lot, right?
Mm.
And so that to me was really hard. That was the most difficult thing, actually.
Mm.
And the one
So you
time
felt
I
like
told him not to talk about her so much, he just flipped out.
Oh,
I really thought he would understand, but no, he didn't understand. And it did dissipate, after a while. But in the beginning, it was just he incessantly talked about her. And they didn't even have that good of a relationship, but he just talked because she'd been a part of his life for so long.
Yeah.
And so it was really natural for him. And it still is hard, but after your learning your course, everything, it doesn't bother me as much, right? Yeah, I think that's the key to having skills. Whatever comes up, it doesn't affect me the way it would had I not had the skills. So,
Interesting.
Yeah. So I did manage to get her stuff
Okay.
slowly, slowly, but yeah, that was hard. That was hard to deal with.
Yeah. So what were the most familiar fight topics, like recurring fights that you guys were?
Well, let's see. Well, usually he would get unhappy with me. I could kind of sense there was some tension from him, and I just thought, oh, okay, I got to be nicer, or stay out of his way or something. But he would. I don't know if it was any if it was something, it was something stupid that would start us off, but he just would generally get unhappy. And I don't even think it was anything I did in particular. He would just, something about it, the relationship just made him very unhappy. And he would just say crazy stuff that I didn't even understand. I mean, in fact, after I had gotten your skills, we got into a fight. It was like the second time he wanted a divorce. And I remember walking into the bedroom, and I had learned that men really want to please women. That was such a shocker to me. My historical experience with men is completely the opposite. I thought they thwarted me. They didn't want to help me. I had to help them. I just had no idea. And so I experimented with him in this fight. I had the presence of mind. He walked in and he just goes, I don't love you anymore. I think you're ugly. Really harsh things. But I didn't take it the same way as I would have before, because I realized when he says I'm ugly, he doesn't really mean I'm physically ugly. I think he meant that the relationship is ugly, between us, what's between us is ugly. And he just didn't know how to express it. But right in the middle of that, I said, would you go get me a glass of water? And he stopped the fight and walked into the kitchen and brought me a glass of water. And I thought, it is true. They'll do anything for you at any time.
Wow.
I had somehow the presence of mind to just, try that on him. That's when I really realized that these skills work. Because if you can stop someone dead in a fight and make them go do something for you,
dude, they'll go do you a favor. Then maybe their primary motivation is to make you happy. And he saw a chance to please you, and he took it. So what a cute story. I love that. So, so he actually went so far as to file the divorce. Is that right?
He filed the divorce. He had done this to his former wife too, I'd heard. So I wasn't super threatened. Plus, I have my own home. that, once I married him, it wasn't like I was going to be out on the street and, but it was horrible because I thought, here I am in my 60s and I love this man. He's got everything going for him. He checked all the boxes and I still can't figure this out. And it was so frustrating. And so I'll tell you what, he did do the divorce thing and he paid for both of them twice. But I'm sure his lawyer was like, what is going on with you? But when I was in the coaching session, she said to me, which I thought, God, that really makes sense. And I never thought about it. It's sort of like, well, they want to please you. If they feel like you're not happy, well, let's get a divorce, right? It's sort of a way to do something for you, even though there's no way you could perceive it that way. But I thought, that sort of makes sense, like, oh yeah, okay, divorce. Well, that's what you need.
I can't make her happy. So I'll set her free.
Yeah. So I thought, I get it now. I get why he was doing that with his former wife and why he was doing it with me. Although it's devastating because, we live near his family and they're all very close. And so it was just kind of our personal business out there where they were not welcoming of me because of his former wife. They had a 40-year relationship with her too. And so not all of his family, but, his brother particularly and his daughter, were, they were nice to me, but they were pretty like, they just didn't want to get to know me. They wondered why I wasn't more like her, those kinds of things. And I was really surprised. I thought, a family, this would be so nice. And it's a lot of problems, but all that's kind of water under the bridge too. And I have to say, it's really because of him and how he talks about me to them now. I think he was confiding in them his unhappiness,
Yeah.
And so they weren't being very respectful of me. And I was just like someone in their way most of the time. And that was another caveat that I thought, it's going to be great. He's going to be, we're going to have this family. I'd never had family around me my adult life. I moved far away from my parents and was on my own my whole life. So I didn't have family around. And I was so happy to finally have family around. It was going to be so nice.
Wrong.
What did I know?
Right. And the rug's pulled out from under you. So this is, we're laughing about, I love your fun, light. You're definitely a goddess of fun and light, but I can imagine this whole thing is so heartbreaking, right? He's filing for divorce. He's saying, I don't love you. You're ugly. His family's not welcoming you. This is scary.
It was scary. And I think if I had not had my other house, my son lives there now, but if I hadn't had another place to go, I would have probably left because I would have been too afraid of the hatchet falling. And, I would have left because I didn't want to be, I would have thought, okay, I've got to get out of here. I've got to make plans to leave but the only thing that really saved it, particularly during COVID, is I could get away to my own place and kind of take a break. And I kind of learned, after I get in your skills about the self-care. So I started scheduling times to go down there and say, I've got to work on the house. I just make up stuff. I got a doctor's appointment, and I'd go down there and stay a few days. And that really just, I think more than him, it helped me to kind of regroup, take a breath, not feel so scared about him and what's going on. And then just, try to go back and, start over again. And, I don't know how he felt about it. I think he was probably glad that I left. Although now when I do that out of self-care, now I do that regularly now out of self-care, he's always saying, I'm going to miss you. And all that. So it's really sweet now.
Same man, same guy.
Same guy.
Wow. Yeah, so how did you find the skills?
Well, like I said, I was just Googling relationships, and like I found before over the years that, you never know where you're going to get some good advice. Like I said, sometimes I'd be on these chat rooms and they're all teenagers on there or something. And some teenage guy will come up with a male perspective, go, oh, I never. So I was just Googling you. And I think, I'm sure I found the first one. I haven't read it's funny. I read both your books. I ordered them and, I gave them away to my future daughter-in-law. So I haven't seen those books. I remember the titles of them. I'm sorry. But, it really resonated with me. And I think the podcasts were what really helped me because that really reinforced all those ideas. And so I just started listening to the podcast because I had given her the books. And I really got the most out of that. To me, like what I read in your books, well, except for the very last one, the financial one, giving up your funds, like, no way.
Yeah, forget it.
But I even did that. Oh. And that's been very successful. And,
okay. I want to hear about this. So,
well, it's funny because right away after we got married, he started telling me that he wanted some monthly income from me. Like we'd only been married for a month or something. And he wanted monthly income. To me, that means rent, right? But, and I thought, well, I have my own house that I'm paying for. Like, why should I be paying for your house? That's not my house. And I'm not even there all the time, because I work in another state. And so I go back and forth too. So I'm not always there. And I said, I don't mind paying for like a few bills or something like utility bills or something like that. But I said, I don't understand why you really want a monthly income from me. And he said, well, your things are here. Well, at that time, his daughter had been storing a bunch of her stuff. And I said, well, there's more of her stuff than my stuff. Charge her rent, And he got really upset and we kind of broke up for a while. This was right after we got married. It was really awful. And he has a funny idea about money. And he talks a lot about how his mother was very stingy with money and stuff. So I think that that's the idea. But I think I had your skills, I would have just thought he's crazy. Fine. I would have, if I'd had your skills, I would have said, yeah, okay. But in my head, I'm going, what the heck, But really, I think it would have solved more problems than I caused by just going, okay, you want some money from me every month. I felt very uncared for at that point, and I thought, geez, we just got married and now you're wanting money out of me and all this stuff. I don't quite understand what drove that in him, but I think maybe he was trying to operate the way he did before with his former wife. It's like sort of like, oh, we pool our income, but we both have separate lives, And so we would have to actively join our incomes, unlike somebody who gets married when they're younger and you sort of just
you don't have anything yet. Yeah.
So you don't have anything yet. So you just kind of accumulate it together. And so I think that's probably what he was after. But he did a funny thing. I said, okay. So once we kind of worked that out where, he dropped that idea. He saw how much conflict that caused and stuff. But then he kind of, again, he somehow wanted me to contribute. Somehow in him, he wants to combine and I said, that's fine. Let's create some family wealth. And, I'm all about it now. And so the first thing he did was buy a brand new car, which we did not need. And I thought, okay. And he wanted me to pay half. I said, that's fine. Okay. I'm trying to, figure out, how to afford half of this car that I could care less about. And I thought, oh, it makes him so happy. And it just, in his head, it righted every uneasy feeling he had about our financial situation together. So somehow it put him in control of the finances. I think that's what he wanted. I think he wanted to be in control of the finances. And
maybe that wanted to be trusted.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so I did. I put my faith in that. And I thought, well, that's a really good solution to this, rather than me dumping money into a house that isn't in my name. It's going to go to his daughter, and it's sort of a waste. Well, at least we can combine it and have a car together. So it's sort of like, owning a house. It costs as much as owning a house together.
Yeah.
So I thought that's a really fantastic way he sort of figured it out for himself. And it was only because I decided to go, okay, have faith in what he wants to do here. And I can't tell you how happy that makes him. It makes him so, and it's just so fun to see. And then it's fun for me too, to have this new car, that some luxurious thing that I would have never, because I've been on my own for many years, I would have never, done that. Because I had to scrimp and save my whole life. And, so anyway, I was just really surprised at that outcome, that he sort of figured this out. And of course, he can't do enough for me as far as, financially. He doesn't needle me about, oh, you need to pay the heating bill, or you need to pay this. I think that car just settled him down, and like, okay, she has faith in me, and this is great. So I was so happy at the outcome of that, even though it's costing me a lot of money, but I don't care, because it's not like it's breaking the bank. I can barely afford it, but I can afford it. And he's done all kinds of things for us. I mean, he planned a trip for us and paid for it. He's booked a cruise for us. This is a man who did not want to travel anywhere with me before. And so on his own, he booked a cruise and is paying for it.
Wow.
And yeah. So, it's like, it gave him the freedom to sort of pay that back to me. Like, it gave him the freedom to support me financially in a way. I don't know. It's crazy, but
I love this. I mean, it sounds like there's a financial intimacy as a result of you trusting him.
He wants to take care of me financially, but he didn't know how, because I was too financially independent, right? He didn't know how to step into that, because the marriage he'd had before, he was 20 when he got married, and he didn't know how to, he knew he wanted to be the provider, but I didn't know how to get him to do that. He was just trying to figure it out in a way. I realize now that charging me rent right after we were married was really a way of him trying to figure out how to be the provider, so that if I paid him rent, he could provide me this house and this life, right? Yeah. That was enough for him. So now he's kind of done it again. There's this real need to figure out how to sort of be in charge of the finances, and so now I finally let him, even though I have to say, I have my own business. He hasn't. I keep saying, I want you to run it. Believe me, I want him to run it, because it's a really difficult business to run. And I'm on this board, and I'm the only woman, and it's all men. And I would love for him to get in there and relieve me of that. But, but I'm still paying a lot of my own bills. And, it's not like I've let go of everything, because it would just be too hard. I am really happy to, at some point, if we can do that, he can just control it. I think it would be too much for him, though. I have a really complicated business. And but I would love for him to get in there and, represent me, on the board. So I don't have to, be the only woman in this board of all men. And and so anyway,
I hear a desire to have some support in your business.
Yes, I would love it, because I get thwarted a lot. I really do think it's because I'm a woman. I don't want to sound misogynist, but I think it's just natural that when a group of men get together, they have a much better relationship than I come in there. And I'm trying to, I'm the secretary. So I'm the one that basically knows everything that's going on there. And I've been there for 25 years. And they just don't want to listen to me. And I thought, one day I looked around, and now all these men have wives too, that are partners in this business that I'm in, and the wives never show up. And I thought, well, I want to have my husband go in there. I don't want to have to show up either. I hate these board meetings. Nobody listens to me, and so I think that final one, that was really a big deal for me, because I am a self-made person, and I have so many complicated financial things going on. And it's kind of the first time in my life where I can kind of relax financially, that I thought, oh my God, now I have to give it up to him. That to me was a really hard one to kind of swallow. But I thought, okay, I'm going to try it. And I have to say, man, it's worked in ways that I could not have predicted, in positive ways, that I, just by having that faith. It's so funny how there's no way I could have said, oh, him first thing, me buying this luxury car with him. But I have to say, I saw one of the those little group chats, and there was this woman on there who said, intimacy is number one. And her husband had started a business right when COVID hit. Of course, they lost all this money, but she said, I didn't say anything because intimacy is much better in the relationship than the financial, anything else. It's the number one thing. And I thought, yeah, it's really right. That's really true. Intimacy, really, you have to kind of remember that it comes before anything else. And when you have intimacy with someone, all the other things just seem like minor problems in comparison, right? Mm-hmm. When you don't have the intimacy and then you have financial problems, then it's a huge deal. But if you're, the two of you are working together on it, and he's being supportive of me the whole time, then I just don't feel like all those problems that we have seem much less problematic, as long as I know he's on my team, right? He's on my side, not his family side.
Yeah. So that wasn't going well before with his family.
No, but since what happened is there was sort of a series of events that happened. He had filed for divorce. His mother passed away. And actually his mother passed away and then he filed for divorce. So, it's kind of a situation where I don't know if maybe he felt sort of depressed or whatever, it was just difficult. And then sort of, oh, well, I was the problem, whatever bad feelings he was feeling, I was the problem. So that's when he filed for divorce the second time. And, but then what happened is, I kept the communications open because I'd had the skills by then. And I just said, okay, whatever. Like he told me to move out. And I think the old me would have argued with him and had a big fight and stayed there. Right. And I thought, oh, he wants me to move out. I'm going to move out. And I think he was surprised. Yeah, I'll move out because that's what you want. And I have to say, it was really daunting because I had a lot of stuff there. By that time, I'd had a lot of furniture that I'd moved in and sort of redecorated and all that against his will. I was kind of really on his paper about his house, but so I moved out, and I think he was really kind of surprised that I moved out. And it was the best thing that I did because it gave us a chance to kind of really regroup. But what happened is he started getting in fights with his family. And then he got into a bad car accident and he got pretty hurt. And he sort of had this epiphany about his life. Like, what am I doing with my life? And I'm going to be alone and old. And, and he really rethought, like, what am I doing with, me as my wife? What am I doing with my wife? And I don't want to live alone, depressed, lonely old life, being a crotchety old man. And so it was really about the time when I started doing the coaching and at the same time. And it was really funny. I had my first coaching session, and then literally the next day we got together and he wanted to get back together. I hadn't said a word to him. He wanted to get back together, and he literally ticked off all the boxes I'd been wanting to hear. Because, he said, I realized that I throw you under the bus with my family. I'm not going to do that anymore. Wow. I know that you don't want to live in my house. I know you want to find a new house. I want to find a new house with you, which was like, whoa. And everything I wanted to hear, he said, I thought, what, did he get hit in the head and got some, like, what happened to
That's
him?
Coaching for you. You get coaching, you get everything you want the next day.
Really well, I think with the coaching, what was really good about that is it just started at the same time he'd had his accident. I think the coaching kind of kept alive this epiphany that he had. It's keeping it alive, where if I hadn't had the coaching, we'd probably have gotten into another fight, and then he would have been right back at square one and forgotten everything that had come to him because of that accident. And I think that's really, and he says, well, it's me, I've changed. And I was talking to my wonderful coach, and I said, no, I really think he thinks it's him.
But I think it's me.
Well, I'm not going to tell him.
Don't tell him, right? So cute. But it sounds like, I mean, in some ways, it does sound like he's changed. He didn't want to travel with you. Now he's booking cruises, and
Yes.
right. This is
completely changed.
This is, I don't love you. You're ugly. To I want to get a house together. I mean, these are pretty big, significant changes. What else did you do? I really hear, you chose your faith around this luxury car and those payments. Right. What else did you do differently than you had been doing things?
Well, one of the big things is he loves to bait me. And I actually, his whole family, well, his daughter's the same way. I realize it's sort of a competitive thing. It's a way to sort of interact with people kind of in a lighthearted way. So they bait you, and I realized, oh, he's baiting me. He baits me a lot. Like, he'll say, he'll mention something about my weight or, stuff like that. He knows he's not supposed to be saying that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't, like you said, I don't show up to that party.
You don't RSVP.
Yeah, I don't RSVP to that. And that's been a big help because, or I joke about it or something, and so that, and also I've learned to really he's a real go-getter. And I've learned to stay out of his way of his plans. And so he remodeled his whole house because, he wanted me to live in a nicer house because I didn't really like his house. And it's kind of run down and it's not like the type of house I like living in. It sounds really snarky, but I live in a beautiful old, 1907, it's gorgeous. And, this is just a tract house. It's nothing, it's not terrible, but it's, it's just, there's no aesthetics to it or anything. And so he really wanted to be supportive of me living there. So he redid all the floors in the whole house. He redid the driveway. He redid the patio. He's really trying to make this effort for me to be comfortable in that house. I can see it now. The old me would have been, oh, he's just remodeling his house. What do I care? But I see what he's doing. He's trying to, and it really helped to do the floors because we had to move completely out. And it was almost like moving back into a new house.
Yeah.
Where all the old history faded away. Right. And that has helped us immensely, kind of him going forward and trying to make the house a nicer place because it had never been remodeled. It was built in the 60s and it had never been really taken care of or remodeled. So he remodeled the kitchen, he did the floors, he did the driveway, I mean, really, I don't know what more he could be doing, to tell you the truth. And at the same time, he says, well, yeah, we'll still keep in mind about looking for a new house and we'll rent this one out. So, I mean, there's nothing more he can really do for me, I don't think. I mean, it's just amazing.
And this was all because he knew you would like that. He's like, this is how I'll make Julie happy by remodeling. So you really were feeling like the princess while he was doing all this.
Oh, yeah, I was. Well, and also the thing is when we were picking things out, like he wanted to pick a countertop, he took me with him and wanted my input, but I knew better to go, oh, no, I want this one, right? I just said, whatever you think. And I let him plan it out. And that made him much more enthusiastic because even though he thinks he included me in those decisions, I made him think he did, it was great because, so what? It's not the countertop I probably would have picked or whatever. It's nice. It's perfectly nice. What do I care? I felt like the intimacy is so much important than a stupid countertop. Yeah. And it's not bad. It looks great. It's not what I would have picked, but it's fine. You know.
And your priority was to maintain the closeness.
Right.
You didn't want to have a conflict over it. And he had a vision. You wanted to stay out of the way.
Right. I think that was really, I commend myself for staying out of his way with all this remodel. Oh, you want to redo the driveway? Okay, great. Go for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to move.
Okay. Yeah. The older you would say, why are you doing that? We should just move anyway, or whatever.
I
Is
would have
that
said that before. And then
gotcha?
I realized, you know what? I have to let him be on his path. His path is he wants to fix this house up. And I really do, even just talking about it now, I'm realizing more that he really wanted to do that for me, because when we broke up, I was moving out and his brother was there. And I just said, this house is a dump anyway. And I wouldn't have told him that, but I'm sure his brother told him. And I think that he realized, oh yeah, I haven't done anything to this house for her. I need to get on in the program here and start redoing this house and make it our house.
Was evidence of him doting on you.
Oh, totally. And I would never have seen it that way before. I would have seen it like, oh, what is he doing? Spending more money. We want to, we're trying to afford a house and blah, blah, blah. And, but I really see the heart message in that, like you say, but it was just, and he's so happy that I'm receiving this and going, oh, this is fantastic. And I have to say, I've never seen someone respond so immediately to positive interaction like that. In fact, when we broke up, the first thing that I started doing to kind of get back with him or maintain the relationship, I started texting him compliments every day. Like, what was it? 3 compliments a day. And I thought 3 compliments a day, I come up with 1.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. And then when he wanted to then that kind of fueled the getting back together. And then he came over to my house. But here's what's funny about it. He has these big conversations with his daughter, who's in her late 30s. So she's very smart, capable adult. So he talks to her a lot about his personal life. And I don't know what she said to him, but he came with this list of 40 things he didn't like about me. And this is his way to get back together. So like, I'm supposed to change 40 things. So he'll be
my gosh.
I don't know anybody crazier than this, but so he read those and I wasn't going to get upset. The old me would have fought with him on every subject, every line that he read to me. And I thought, this is all stupid stuff that he's complaining about, and I thought, who wants to get back together when you have a list of 40 things
nobody
you don't like about
nobody
the person? How is that gonna?
That's more like how to break up, right?
I know. I don't understand. I think he was talking to his daughter, his family, like, here's all the things we don't like about her or something. But it was funny. None of them really bothered me, even though, like, I didn't really take it to heart, except the last thing he said was he didn't like how I dressed. And it made me cry. I was like, I don't know, something about a woman. That's our whole thing, is how we present ourselves to our men, and that to me was like, whoa. But I was vulnerable, I cried and I didn't yell at him or anything. I didn't, I just let it go. And then I sent him an email. And it was hard to do, believe me. I sent him 40 things I loved about him.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And that really, I think, brought it home without me fighting with him. Right. So 40 things I loved. And he did say, gosh, had I spent that time writing all the things I liked about you, I think our relationship would have been better. But here I was spending all this time on all the negative things. So it sort of made him realize too, that, and I have to say, it was so, I want to say that my birthday is at the end of May. And last year, the vulnerability skill is really the hardest for me, because I'm a very independent person. I don't cry in front of people or any of that stuff. I've been on my own since I was 18. I've been traveled the world when I was a teenager by myself and stuff. I was very independent. And, but on my birthday last year, in still COVID, we hadn't been out anywhere. I was just dying to go out to eat or something. And so he was kind of in this, crummy mood. And I was real nervous all day. He didn't say happy, but he never gives me gifts, never gave me a gift, never liked to celebrate anniversaries or birthdays or anything. And I was kind of nervous about it because I thought, oh, it's going to be a lot of negative energy and stuff. And I was real stressed out about it. And so he took me out to dinner, and all the way there in the car, he's yelling at me about some stupid little thing I did that didn't mean anything. I put a hammer in a drawer in the bedroom or something, and just kind of yelling at me about it. And it's like, oh, this is going to be awful. We get to the restaurant. He's real agitated and kind of being mean. And I just, rather than yell, I burst into tears at the table. And I was so embarrassed. I've never cried in public in my life, but that was a real test of being vulnerable, I have to say. And I had the menu in front of my face, but I couldn't stop crying because it was so stressful. And so luckily the service was so bad because it was it was still COVID, but there was nobody there to wait on us.
No one worked there.
I said, I want to go home. I want to get out of here. I want to go home, because I'd never cried in public in my life before. And I had the menu up. I was trying to hide because I was crying so hard. And he goes, okay, let's get out of here. And I could have yelled at him in the car about how mean he was, but I didn't. I just cried, and I didn't say a word. And he goes, well, why are you crying? I said, well, I've just been under a lot of stress today. I didn't take it out on him. And I thought, oh, this is so good. But I have to say that birthday from last year. And then I thought, oh, what's going to happen? Because I just celebrated a couple of weeks ago. And I thought, what is he going to do? What horrible thing is he going to do?
Yeah.
He couldn't have been nicer. He came first thing, happy birthday. He had a beautiful present for me on the dining room table. It was jewelry, diamond earrings. He's never, even when we were married, he never gave me a gift. I mean, never has given me a gift. And diamond earrings and a beautiful diamond and emerald necklace he gave me. And then he took me out to the most beautiful restaurant, and we had a great time. I mean, just the marker of last year between this year, just night and day. I mean, I didn't even know he could be so fun.
So romantic, sweet.
Romantic, yes.
And Julie, how long have you been practicing intimacy skills?
About 1.5 years, I would say. Okay. Maybe 2 years. Well, it was definitely during COVID.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Desperate, what can I do?
Yeah.
Because I was just about to join sort of a support group, because I knew there was kind of issues. And then everything got canceled because of COVID, right? I thought, oh man. So then I just started going on the internet and just looking, typing in different things and different ways to type things in. And then you came up, and I can't remember the original post or what really sold me, but I really do think it was the podcast, just listening to the podcast all the time.
Yeah.
That was very helpful. That's what sold me on it.
Yeah. So it sounds like a tremendous transformation from where you were with him filing divorce twice. And kind of,
I have to say too, I'm pretty lazy about it. I think maybe I'm far along enough where I've kind of, it's inherent now where I don't have to think about it so much, because it's really just kind of changing your outlook in a way. I think it's, also, I just had no idea that men have a disease to please women. I always thought women had the disease to please men. And that's what I was always trying to do. That was the message I always got. I had no idea it was the opposite.
No one ever taught you, right?
How was that? I don't know how that, got me, but, some women figured it out. I sure didn't. And so I really learned. I sort of had that idea because I'd been had a couple boyfriends where I had the sense that I was doing too much for them. I could tell that they were sort of backing away. But I couldn't stop myself because I didn't have skills to kind of go, I sort of thought, the less I do for him, it seems like the happier he is, but I thought I just couldn't stop myself from doing stuff because that's just how I was, geared up to.
Yeah. It might be the early training you got, right?
Yeah.
What do you think you would tell if you could go back in time and talk to Julie from before? What do you know now that you'd want to tell her?
Well, the main thing that I think was the biggest surprise is, let men help you. Don't you be the one helping them. Don't you? And let them have their own life. Let them make their own decisions about, well, particularly when you're married. I mean, I had a couple long-term boyfriends, so that's not quite as on the table as when you're married and you're thinking, oh, I got this life together. I really think I would have said, let him help you. Don't you worry about helping him. I always worried about those kinds of things, oh, we got to get this done. We got to do that. And literally, I mean, I almost turned into a bratty princess. Like, no, you go do it. I can't do it. He's only too happy to, like I said, in the middle of the fight, he went and got me a drink of
glass of water. Because you wanted one. So, and how are you different now than you were?
Well, I definitely am more relaxed, because if something comes up, I go, okay, I got a skill to kind of deal with this. Like before, I'd be just like, oh my God, I can't figure this out. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I think I'll just leave.
yeah, right.
But no, I think now, and also too, I think with his family, I think because I have the skills, these problems aren't as bad as they were before I had the skills. Like now I don't feel like I have to deal with stuff, right? You just kind of let it go. Oh, somebody in his family's being snippy with me or unfair, whatever. I don't feel like I have to defend myself. I think he's, if I can let him do it, and it's much more satisfying to me. And I think to him too, to kind of defend me a little bit to his family. Like he told his daughter, that to kind of stay out of our relationship. She was only too happy to get in the middle of. And I think that it was great, because I thought, well, how am I going to deal with this daughter? Like I was taking it on for me. And I realized, oh no, this isn't even my problem. This is a dynamic that's going on between him and her, really.
Something else that you didn't have to RSVP to, in a way.
Right. Yeah. I think staying out of the family dynamics has been super helpful, very helpful.
So
not trying to solve everything.
What about the arguments now? Like,
we have not even had an argument since we've been back together, and we've been back together since like January.
Wow.
So yeah, no, we haven't even had one argument. Well, we've had a little. The only thing that he started getting a little critical with me the other day, and I kind of had no skills.
It's going to happen, right?
I had no skills in my head at the time.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't like the tone. I said, it was just innocuous. I just said, would you please get me that for you? And I said it sort of in a lilting voice. And he goes, you don't always have to do baby talk. And I was like, I wasn't. I was just, that's my female voice. And I said, you don't have to be so critical, which is not using the skills, right? But, that's definitely not. But, and I thought, oh, I'm not using the skills. But he kind of backed off. I was surprised. He didn't make a deal out of it. I said, God, you're really critical of just nothing at all. And he kind of agreed, actually. And so I was like, wow, I'm surprised, that he didn't start a fight out of that. He could have made a big deal. Well, I'm just tired of how you sound and blah, blah, blah. But he didn't. So, I realized that there's probably something going on inside of him that's making him tense with me. It's not about me. It's really more about him.
It sounds like you have some emotional safety in the bank anyway, that didn't spiral. Like the new norm is there's a lot of connection and intimacy.
Right.
So you could say something that's not very skillful or whatever, maybe it wasn't your best self that you wanted to show up as, but it didn't cause a breakdown.
No. And it's funny because I wouldn't say I have a lot of issues with this daughter, but she's a dynamic person. And so she does get in the middle of our relationship a lot. And she's a really nice person, but she was having a party at her house. She just had a baby. And so I was really nervous about going to the party, because she, like him, loves to bait people. She got that from her dad, but and I thought, oh, geez, I don't know, what's going to happen, and I was really kind of nervous about it. And my wonderful coach said, well, just be yourself. And I thought, okay, I'm really nervous. And it was so funny because she and I had a really nice visit with the baby. It's the first time I really got to see the baby. And then he got in a big fight with his brother. And the whole party just broke up. He got in a fight with his brother. And I thought, thank God it wasn't me.
It wasn't me today.
Yeah.
Today, I had a great time with his daughter. Yeah, it feels good, right? To show up with so much dignity, right? You're not getting into these conflicts.
And not be in the hot seat.
Yeah.
Like he and his daughter like to put me in the hot seat a lot, just for fun,
Like a superpower, really, to be able to not engage in a way that's where you don't want to go, right?
Yeah. I didn't engage. It was so funny though. I was like, oh my God. It was he and his brother. He always gets upset as his brother every party we go to. It's like he zeroes in. He's just really a smart, attuned kind of person. And so if he zeroes in on you, you really can become a target, And that's what I've learned is not to, by letting him do what he wants in his life, I don't become a target, right?
Yeah.
I don't get in the way and he's got to figure out a way to thwart me, right? And that to me was because he's a really astute person. Like he really can read the room. And he's super smart. And so I think that's I think on a daily basis, that's been the most beneficial skill is not getting in his way of his plans and what he wants to do. Even this trip that he planned this trip, we haven't been anywhere since COVID. So we got married right before COVID. And so we haven't been anywhere since we've been married pretty much. And so he planned this trip to his brother's house in a state that I could care less about going to. I won't mention the state, but it's not like Hawaii. Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't Hawaii. Got it. Okay.
About going. But I thought, all right, I'm just going to let him plan this trip and not say anything, not try to change it up or hey, how about if we go, somewhere on the trip that might be fun to go to. And so it was to his brother's house. And last thing I wanted to do was go visit. He has another brother who he doesn't fight with. And last thing I wanted to do is go visit his brother. But I didn't say anything. I let him plan the trip. And he was so delighted that was such a fun trip that we took because we've taken a couple other trips before COVID. And he gets in a really bad, sour mood. And so I let him just do, and we absolutely had the best time. His brother lives near a big city. We went to the local museum, and it was literally, I've been to a lot of museums because I'm an artist, and it was the best museum date I've ever been on. We were laughing at the artwork, and I was pointing out the ironies of different. It was just we had the best time there. And who cares that it was in a city I could care less about going to, but we had a great time, So that's what you remember, really. You don't remember where you went or what, that doesn't matter as much as that you had fun together and we laughed together and we just, it was just a wonderful trip. All the little things, minor things that maybe didn't work out the way I thought should on that trip didn't matter. It was, and the memory that he has is like, that was a wonderful trip. And so, then he booked this trip for us to go on a cruise. And so, and I don't really want to go on a cruise, but I don't care. I want to go on a trip with him, to me. And he does it all first class and, and it's just fun to be out of the house and having experiences. Who cares where you are?
Yeah. Well, and then what I hear in that is, you started out saying I'm in my early 60s and I really wanted to figure this out. And what I hear you saying is you figured it out. You know how to have a good relationship now, right?
Finally.
So that's just a victory lap, right? Like
yes. I know. I'm glad that I figured it out with him because he is such an amazing person. I think that's why I didn't want to let him go. He's an incredibly accomplished person in his field. He's very looked up to in his field, and he's an amazing person. And so I'm glad that I have him. I would have loved to have married someone like him right in college, out of college or something like that, and had a wonderful, accomplished person to be with. And that was part of the reason too, is just, I looked up to him so much. I thought, oh, everybody else, if I break up with him, they're going to seem so boring compared to him,
Oh.
And he's just a gregarious person. He's fun loving, and, he doesn't have a lot of filters, but he's just, he's not a typical man where he kind of holds on to bad feelings and you don't know what's going on and they don't talk to you for several days. He's not that guy. And that's kind of a relief. But that's one of the reasons I think we fought a lot, is because he was outwardly expressive about his frustrations. And, and maybe he didn't know how to put it, like saying I was ugly. I thought, there's no way he thinks I'm ugly, because he's told me I was pretty, 1,000 times before.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought, what does he mean by that? I'm ugly. And I think what he meant was, what we had between us is ugly, or somehow, they just don't express themselves maybe as accurately as, and I that to me threw me, and I'm like, oh yeah, maybe it is ugly. It is kind of ugly. And what we had was sort of ugly, fighting all the time, and me thwarting him, and, giving my stupid opinion about everything.
Well, what is your tip? Let me ask you this. What's your tip for someone who maybe her husband's saying things like that? You're ugly. I don't love you. He's filing for divorce. And she wants what you have now, where he's buying her diamond earrings and necklaces for her birthday and taking her on cruises and trips. And just, we'll get her a glass of water in the middle of a fight. What's your best tip for her? How should she start?
Well, I think when he started saying that, well, it was particularly hurtful when he did that at that time, because I had a wonderful lab that I'd had from day one, and he had just passed away a few days before, when he wanted to break up. His mom died, my dog died, and then he wanted to break up, and it was just like devastating. What more could go wrong? But I think when somebody's kind of in a man, I would say, don't take that at face value. I would say, make him go do something for you right away.
Express a desire.
Something's broken and you need to fix it now. I don't know. I think that I wasn't taking it at face value by that time. I knew that, and I realized this about my past relationships. I had been broken up with twice, sort of the same way, sort of suddenly and kind of out of the blue. And I realize now that that's not what they're really after. They just want to not feel this ugliness, right? And so they're going to say anything to you to get out of it. And so I would say the tip is not take that at face value. They're saying something else to you. What you're hearing is not really what they're saying. What they're saying is, I'm unhappy, and that, for my side of it, I have the skills to do something about it. Where before I was clueless. Wow, you're unhappy, you want to break up? Okay, I guess, I had two, I've been single for a long time now, but I had two sort of semi-long-term boyfriends, and they wanted to break up. Right. And I was like, what? I was shocked. And I was like, okay, you want to break? There's nothing. I felt like there was nothing I could do about it. When they got to that, I have no control over them breaking up with me. And now I realize, oh no, that's not the final thing. There's always, another way to figure out to repair this relationship, even though it seems final. I always thought it, like, if they say they want to break up, I go, okay, that's it. And I would break up. I didn't know. Oh no, you don't have to. Like, in my mind, I don't have to break up. In their mind, they're breaking up. But I would say that's the most valuable tip, is like, when he tried to break up with me, both times really, because I'd had the skills by then in both breakups. But the second time, I really realized, oh no, this is going to be, he wants to break up, but I realized I can do something about this. Yeah. So the first thing I did is, he wanted me to move out. I was like, fine, I'll move out. I want to do what you want me to do. All right. And so I did that. And I think that was really good, because it gave us it gave him a chance to see how he really needed me. He was in this empty crummy house that, looked like a teenager lived there, because I'd taken out all the beautiful antiques and nice furniture and stuff.
Yeah.
And he realized he didn't want to live like that.
No.
And so, I think, unfortunately for me, it took getting him to that point. I think the best tip would be, I think praising someone, people can't resist that. And he ate that up. During COVID, I thought I got to do something here. He started cooking for me and I'd go, oh my God, this is the best food. I love you. Now he cooks 3 meals. I don't even walk in the kitchen anymore. He even packs me lunches if I'm going somewhere,
So you bringing the gratitude really inspired.
Yes, he ate that up. I was really surprised at how he ate that up. He was starving for that.
For that acknowledgement.
He was starving for that. He's so accomplished. I thought, what does he need to be acknowledged for?
Right.
He's a really independent guy.
He's a being, it turns out. Yeah.
Yeah. He ate those compliments up, and now he thinks he's the greatest chef in the world. And he starts at 3 p.m. looking up recipes. His whole day is about, okay, we're going to have this for lunch. We're going to have that for dinner, and so that was, praising him. That's the easiest thing you can do, even though at the beginning I was like, oh my gosh, what do I have to
be grateful about here? Yeah.
But I have to say, he ate that up, and he, anytime, especially during COVID, people would ask us, like, how are you guys coping and all this? And I said, great. He's cooking me these beautiful dinners and lunches and breakfasts. And, it's just been wonderful. And he shined from that.
That's fantastic. Julie.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. This is extraordinary. And I especially love that you bring forth that, that anything is possible at any age, that you can still transform your relationship. You can learn these new skills. Doesn't matter how long you've been independent and been on your own. So well done. And thank you so much for sharing the story with us of how you did it.
Well, it was my pleasure to be here, and it's so great to meet you.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. If you're wondering how to get started with fixing your relationship and making it shiny again, then you need a roadmap. Get 6 simple steps to follow that will set your relationship up for success. Discover 3 common mistakes that wives make trying to fix their relationship that just make things worse when you download my free Adored Wife Roadmap. You can do that at getcherished.com. Go to getcherished.com now to get your roadmap in minutes.
Relationship advice, the worst relationship advice. Yeah, it's the worst relationship advice, the worst relationship advice of the week.
And now it's time for the Worst Relationship Advice of the Week award. And the advice that has me in a tantrum this week was sent to me by a student and a previous podcast guest who says, I was taking a break from my toddler and infant as my husband did his thing, being the best dad in the world and working all week, including this morning. And I found this little nugget. And she says, it sounds like a whole lot of fun to discuss and not at all like an intimacy killer. I mean, who doesn't love the word audit or the word chore? And then she wrote, enjoy, because she knows I do enjoy kicking around bad advice like a soccer ball. And she included an article called A Chore Audit is the Secret to Stopping Housework-Related Resentment. So that made me laugh out loud. Can't wait to read this one, right? So here's your anonymous shout out and my big thanks to you for the standout contribution to the podcast. This advice you spotted is a total winner, by which I mean it's a total loser. And it's so sweet of you to send it to me. Thanks for the love. The article says a chore audit is when, quote, couples sit down and make a list of everything it takes to make their home run, talk about their feelings and expectations about each chore, and then assign the tasks fairly. So first of all, who hasn't tried to do that already? I mean, have you ever tried to sit down and talk about all the chores and who's doing what in a calm, rational manner? Because anyone who has attempted that already knows it's the biggest waste of time and intimacy on the planet. Because no matter how calmly and logically it starts out, it's going to devolve into listing all the chores that I do and all the chores that he's not doing and telling him he has to do more, way more, because I'm exploding with resentment about it. At least that's how it used to go at my house in the bad old days. This sham article acknowledges that's where it's probably going to end up also, because it goes on to say, quote, despite how long you've been together, you may still hope in the potential of your partner. Maybe, just maybe, after telling them to put their clothes in the basket for the 1,000th time, they'll finally listen. Because isn't that how it works? That sounds suspiciously like nagging, doesn't it? I thought so too. So the follow-up to this chore audit, is to nag him to death, which, as you already know, doesn't work either for getting things done, but will rob you of feeling dignified and cost you tons of connection and playfulness and passion. But what about that resentment that he's not doing his share of chores? What if you're sick of never getting any help? Well, there's a skill for that. There's a couple of them, actually. And I lean on them when I start to feel ragged and resentful, which can still happen. I consider that feeling an urgent text from my soul that I'm in desperate need of some rest and relaxation because I'm depleted. Nothing good can happen until I fix that situation. And once I've taken better care of myself by taking a nap or talking to a friend or going for a walk with my favorite podcast, I'm so much less likely to feel like a martyr who has to do everything. So I'm less likely to show up that way and more likely to show up with gratitude. And since I can't be grateful and resentful at the same time, if I can find my gratitude and focus on all the ways my husband is contributing to making my life easier and better, that resentment melts away. And then, because he loves making me happy and feeling appreciated, my husband's singular. I only have one husband. He tends to do more, and he does more of the chores that he knows will delight me. I don't even have to ask. But that never happened back in the old days when I used to make spreadsheets with lists of chores on them and put them on the fridge, which in hindsight was a terrible way to get what I wanted. For that reason, the advice to have a chore audit as a couple is the very, very worst relationship advice I have heard all week. Listen and subscribe to the Empowered Wife podcast. Next week, I'll share what to do when the intimacy skills don't work for you. In the meantime, I hope you're having lots of fun. Today's fun fact is that I used to scoff at companies for relentlessly showing me an ad for something I didn't want whatsoever until I realized, actually, I do need a blue and gold ceramic ginger jar.